I didn't believe in curses, not really. That changed the day I brought home the mirror from the estate sale on Briarwood Lane. It wasn't supposed to be anything special, just an old, ornate piece tucked behind a pile of dusty furniture in the corner of a garage that smelled like mothballs and something long dead. The woman running the sale was overly eager to get rid of it, almost desperate. "You can have it for $10, she said, eyes darting everywhere but at the mirror. "Just don't bring it back." I should have walked away right then. But something about it, maybe the way the silver frame seemed to pulse under the light or how my reflection shimmered slightly like water, hooked me. I chalked it up to bad lighting and shrugged it off. By the time I got it home to my apartment in Albany, the sky had turned that shade of purple-gray that always makes me feel like something's waiting just outside the window. The mirror was heavier than I expected, cold to the touch even after hours in the sun. I propped it up in the hallway across from my bedroom. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes I saw my own reflection, staring back at me in the dark. Not mimicking me, just watching. At first I thought it was my imagination. Sleep deprivation. My job at the warehouse had me working graveyard shifts and my mind wasn't exactly firing on all cylinders. But things escalated. Fast. On the third night I passed the mirror and stopped cold. My reflection didn't move. I took a step forward, heart pounding. My own face, twisted into an unfamiliar expression. Cold, calculating, like I was looking at a stranger who wore my skin. I waved. He didn't. I laughed nervously, blaming stress, maybe a hallucination, maybe a trick of the light. But then he smiled. I didn't. It was a slow, hateful grin that pulled too wide, like the muscles in his face didn't quite know how to work. I slammed a sheet over the mirror and backed away, heart hammering so loud, I swore it echoed off the walls. I didn't sleep that night, or the one after. Eventually I convinced myself to take the sheet off, just to prove I hadn't gone completely insane. Bad decision. When I pulled the sheet away, my reflection was already waiting, not doing anything, just standing there staring, same expression I wore. But something was off. Subtle at first, like a difference in the eyes, a slight tilt to the head. I spoke. "Stop this." He mouthed the words with me, perfectly. Then, a blink too late. That was the moment I realized something was horribly wrong. That thing, it was learning, getting better, closer to perfect. And I had the gut-wrenching feeling it wasn't just copying me anymore, it was rehearsing. I started avoiding the hallway, stopped brushing my teeth in the bathroom across from it, started sleeping on the couch with all the lights on. I even considered breaking the damn thing, but something stopped me every time, like a weight pressing on my chest, whispering in my ear, "He's not ready yet." On the seventh night I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned toward the mirror. I wasn't even near it. But my reflection, it was there, standing, smiling. Closer. That night, I dragged the mirror down to the dumpster behind my building. It felt like it was fighting me the whole way, so cold it burned my hands, like it didn't want to leave. I tossed it in, turned, away, didn't look back. I should have known that wasn't the end. When I woke the next morning, it was back, standing perfectly where it had always been, not a single crack. My own face staring out at me like it had never left, only this time it wasn't copying me anymore. It was pacing, back and forth, in the reflection, but I wasn't moving. I stood there, frozen, watching it. My mirror self stopped, turned, and then slowly, methodically, it pressed its hand against the glass. I didn't move, couldn't breathe. A spiderweb of fractures split across the surface, radiating from where its palm met the glass. The noise wasn't a shatter, it was a scream. High-pitched, distorted, inhuman. I fell backward, but my eyes were locked on the mirror. Something was coming through. His hand, my hand, emerged from the broken surface like the mirror had become water. The skin was pale, veined, the fingers long and shaking with anticipation. I scrambled away, but the thing was already halfway out. It dragged itself into my world with a sick, wet sound, like meat tearing from bone. The air went ice cold. Every light in the apartment flickered and died. And then we were face to face. It was me, but it wasn't. His eyes were too deep, like tunnels with no end. His skin twitched, like something was moving underneath. And when he spoke, it was my voice, twisted through broken glass. "You've had your turn." He lunged. The last thing I remember was the taste of blood, mine, and the sound of the mirror reforming behind me, smooth and whole again. I woke up. Inside the mirror. I can't scream. I can't move. I can only watch. Watch as he lives. My life wears my face, smiles with my mouth. Every night he walks past, he winks at me. And sometimes, just sometimes, he brings the mirror to another sale and waits for the next idiot to take it home. I've never told anyone this. Not the cops, not my therapist, not even my wife. Some nights when I'm alone, I wonder if I even survived it. It started with a crib. I found it at a yard sale off Highway 34, just outside a forgotten little town in Pennsylvania. The house looked like it had been abandoned mid-century and left to rot. The yard was a jungle. The furniture was decades old and smelled like mildew and forgotten lives. But that crib, it looked untouched. White wood, hand-carved spindles, polished. Perfect. I asked the old woman running the sale how much. She didn't answer right away, just stared at me, her eyes dull like smoke-stained glass. Then she said, "It only rocks forward, never back." I laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a joke. She didn't laugh. I should have walked away right then. But my wife, Sarah, was 7 months pregnant. We'd been looking for something unique, something special. And this crib, despite its strangeness, felt like it was meant for us. I brought it home, cleaned it, assembled it in what would soon be our baby's room. We even added a little mobile above it, clouds and stars turning gently in the soft yellow light of the lamp. That first night, the crib rocked on its own, just a little. Forward. Never back. I told myself it was nothing. Drafts, floor settling, maybe I'd nudged it without realizing, but it kept happening, every night, even when I locked the door, even when I braced the base with books. Forward. Never back. Then came the crying. It was faint at first, like it was leaking through the walls, high-pitched, hollow, almost mechanical, like a tape recording of a baby that had been played too many times. Sarah never heard it, but I did. I'd stand in the hallway outside the nursery, frozen, ears straining in the silence, and just when I thought I had imagined it, there it was again, and always, the crib would be rocking. Faster now. Forward. Never back. One night I opened the door and found something lying inside the crib. A small, cloth doll, hand-stitched. It hadn't been there before. Its face was wrong, just 2 black button eyes and a stitched red smile that stretched too wide. I picked it up, and the second my fingers touched the fabric, a cold flash ran through my arm like I'd been shocked. The nursery light fizzled, then burst. Sarah called out from the bedroom. I stumbled back, trying to hide how much my hands were shaking. I told her the bulb just blew. No big deal, but I couldn't sleep that night. I kept seeing the crib, hearing the wood creak forward. feeling that cold, artificial cry echo in my chest, and I swear, I heard something breathe. The next morning, the doll was gone. I tore the room apart. Nothing. Not under the crib, not in the closet, not between the slats or in the drawers. I even checked the attic, thinking maybe I'd imagined it all. Maybe I was losing sleep. Maybe I was just unraveling. But then Sarah found something. She called me into the nursery holding a folded slip of paper in her hand. "Did you write this?" she asked. I shook my head. The paper was yellowed, brittle, like it had been aged in a drawer for decades. On it, written in what looked like smeared red ink, was a single sentence. "The child must stay." Sarah thought it was a sick prank. Maybe someone at the yard sale slipped it into the crib before we brought it home. But I knew better, because the handwriting was mine. Not similar, mine. But shaky, frantic, like I'd written it during a panic attack with blood on my fingers. That night I dreamed of the doll. It stood beside the crib, taller than before. Its face twisted into something that shouldn't have been able to smile. Behind it, a figure loomed, featureless, wrapped in a veil of shadow, arms too long, torso wrapped in something wet and black. It whispered in a voice that wasn't sound but thought. "You brought it home. It's yours now." I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, nails dug into my own palms. Sarah wanted to get rid of the crib. I did too. We drove it out to an abandoned lot miles from town and left it there, tipped on its side in the gravel. I watched it in the rear view mirror until it disappeared into the dark. But when we got home, it was back in the nursery, upright, rocking forward, never back. I stared at it for hours. Sarah didn't see it. Not anymore. To her, it was gone. But to me, only me, it was always there. And then, the baby came. She was perfect. Rose cheeks, bright eyes, lungs strong and alive. We named her Lily, and for a little while, I thought it was over. I let myself believe we'd broken the curse or the hallucination or whatever it was, until I heard the crying again. Not Lily's. The other one. Late at night, through the monitor, mixed with static. I'd rush to her crib and find her sleeping, peacefully, but in the corner of the room, always that faint shape. That thing. Half shadow, half mockery of a child, standing beside the old crib that wasn't there, holding the doll. It watched me every night, and then Lily started talking. Not babbling. Talking. One night, I heard her whisper through the baby monitor. "He says I can stay if you go." I sprinted into her room. She was awake, sitting up, eyes wide. And behind her, the crib was rocking. Faster, faster. And the thing in the corner smiled. Lily stood, climbed out of her crib and walked toward it, toward him, like she knew it. Like she'd been there before. I tried to grab her, but my body locked, my limbs frozen like invisible hands were pressing me into the wall. I watched helplessly as she climbed into the old crib, the one only I could see, and lay down. The crying stopped. The room went cold, and the shadow whispered, "You should have never taken her place." Then the crib vanished, and so did Lily. The police found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no footprints. Just a perfectly clean, empty nursery and a man babbling about cribs and dolls and shadows. No one believed me. They never do. But I still hear her, through the walls. Crying. Rocking. Forward. Never back. They say it's just a painting. But tell me, why does it breathe? Let me back up. 2 months ago, I went to a local estate sale in Charleston, South Carolina. The place was one of those old, rotting colonial homes that looked like it had been swallowed by moss and memory. The owner, a reclusive old woman named Martha Blackwell, had died alone in the house, and the entire contents of her life were being sold off room by room. Most people were interested in her antique clocks or porcelain dolls. I found the painting in the basement. It was massive, 5 feet tall, maybe more. Dusty, covered with a tarp, shoved behind a stack of broken chairs and boxes. I don't know what made me pull the tarp off. Just curiosity, I guess. But the moment I did, I felt something shift inside me, like the air thickened, like the basement got quieter. Too quiet. The painting was a portrait of a man, mid-40s, bald, pale, wearing a tattered black suit with a blood-red tie. His expression was hollow, his lips just slightly parted like he'd been about to speak. But what gripped me, what froze me, were his eyes. They were too real. Not painted, photographed. I swear to God, they looked wet, like they were watching me the moment I uncovered the canvas. I bought it for $10. Don't ask me why. Maybe I thought I could resell it. Maybe I wanted to challenge the unease crawling under my skin. But the truth? I couldn't leave it behind. It felt like if I didn't take it, it would follow me home anyway. I hung it in my apartment. Big empty wall in my office. I tried to ignore it, but every time I walked past, I swore the man's face had changed just slightly. A twitch of the lip, a darkening of the skin, his pupils dilating. The second night, I woke up to the sound of glass shattering. I rushed into the office and found nothing broken, except the clock on the wall. It had stopped at exactly 3:11, and the painting had shifted. It had tilted on the hook just enough to seem deliberate. I straightened it. Tried to laugh it off, but then the whispering started. It came from behind the painting, not loud. Just low enough to make me question my sanity. Words I couldn't understand. Rasping, guttural, like something trying to speak through water. I put my ear to the canvas one night, heart pounding, and I swear, I felt breath, hot and wet. That same night I had a dream. In it, I stood in front of the painting, staring into the man's eyes. Only now, he wasn't in the frame. The canvas was empty, just a shadow behind glass. I turned around and he was behind me, inches from my neck, whispering words I couldn't remember when I woke, but I could still feel them, burning in my skull. After that, I started noticing the smell. Something rotten. Like old meat left in the sun. I cleaned the apartment top to bottom, emptied the fridge, took out the trash. It didn't matter. The smell always came from the painting, and then I started seeing him. Not in dreams. Not in shadows. In mirrors. Behind me. Standing. Silent. Eyes locked on mine. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I even tried to get rid of it. Dragged it to the dumpster at 2 a.m. like a coward. I heard footsteps behind me the whole way there. But the next morning, it was back on the wall. Perfectly hung. The man's smile was wider now, almost amused. And the smell? Stronger. Like something had died in the walls. I started recording myself at night. It was the only way I could prove to myself I wasn't losing my mind. I set up a camera in the office, pointing straight at the painting. I figured if it really was moving, I'd catch it. The next morning, I watched the footage. At exactly 3:11 a.m., the video went black. No static, no sound. Just darkness, for exactly 33 seconds. When it came back on, the painting was empty. The man was gone. I paused the video, rewound, played it again. Over and over. He was there, then not. I checked the frame in real life. He was back staring at me, a smirk now tugging at his cracked lips. I couldn't breathe. I called a local art dealer, some guy named Dean who specialized in unusual items. I didn't tell him everything, I didn't have to. The second he saw the painting, his face went pale. He told me it was one of Blackwell's last pieces, painted not with oil or pigment, but with ashes. Human ashes. He said the man in the portrait was never identified. Martha Blackwell used to paint people she dreamed about, people she claimed were visitors from somewhere else. She believed her paintings trapped them, sealed them inside. But sometimes, she said, they got out. Dean offered to take it, destroy it if he could. I didn't hesitate. We wrapped it up, shoved it into his van, and I watched him drive off into the night. That was 3 days ago. I thought it was over. But last night I woke up at 3:11 a.m. I was frozen, paralyzed. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, just my eyes, open and locked on the dark corner of my room. He was there. The man. Not in the painting, not in a dream. In the room. His face was inches from mine, eyes black and endless, dripping thick, tar-like tears that hissed as they hit my skin. His mouth hung open wider than humanly possible, unhinged like a snake, and he whispered my name, not aloud, but inside my skull. He reached out and touched my forehead with one bony finger, and then I saw it. Where he comes from. It wasn't God, fire. It wasn't hell. It was emptiness. A screaming void where light goes to die, filled with things with no mouths but too many eyes, gnashing teeth growing from their hands, devouring each other in silence. I woke up screaming, soaked in sweat and blood, my own, from a deep scratch across my chest. And this morning, I got a package on my doorstep. No return address. I opened it. The painting. Returned. Only now, the man wasn't alone. There was another figure behind him. Blurry. Feminine. And her eyes looked exactly like mine. I don't know how much longer I have. My reflection already lingers a second too long. Sometimes it smiles when I don't. And every night, 3:11 a.m. gets closer. Like something is waiting, watching, getting ready to step through the canvas and become me. You ever walk past a door in your own house and feel like something behind it is breathing? That's what started it all. That damn door in my basement. When I bought the house, the realtor said it had character. What it really had was mold, creaky floors, and one locked door that none of us could open, not even the locksmith. Probably storage, he shrugged. I should have known better. Things got weird fast. The first night I heard tapping from below. Soft at first, like a finger against wood. Then scratching, like nails on the other side of that locked basement door, but it was an old house, no big deal. That's what I told myself, until the knocking started responding. 3 knocks. I'd freeze, then 3 more, matching mine. My wife, Claire, thought I was just stressed. It's the pipes, she'd say, but I knew. Pipes don't mimic you. One night I sat at the top of the basement stairs waiting. I knocked once on the wall. It knocked back. Twice. Then, nothing. But when I stood up, I noticed something. The door. It wasn't locked anymore. The chain that had always been bolted shut was unhooked, dangling gently as if someone had just let go. I didn't go down. I'm not brave. I'm not stupid. But curiosity eats you alive from the inside, doesn't it? The next morning I found Claire standing in front of the door, just staring. Her eyes were vacant, her lips twitching like she was mouthing something. When I touched her shoulder, she screamed, shrieked like I'd torn her skin off. I saw something, she kept repeating. I saw her. When I asked who, she just started crying. That night I heard Claire talking in her sleep, not mumbling, full sentences, but not in English. Her voice was low, guttural, like something was using her throat as a speaker. I recorded. It played it back the next day when I slowed it down, reversed it. The message was clear. Let me in. I moved a heavy shelf in front of the basement door, hammered nails into the frame, taped it shut, every possible way to seal it. But it wasn't enough. Because last night, the door opened anyway. I found Claire gone. All the windows and doors were locked. But the basement door was wide open, the air leaking out like a corpse exhaling. I called her name. Nothing. I stepped onto the first stair. Something warm dripped on my shoulder. Blood. It ran down from the ceiling above the stairs, thick and black in the dark. I looked up. There were fingernails, stuck into the wood above me. Dozens of them torn out, some still fresh, like someone had tried to climb their way back up, but was pulled down, dragged. I screamed her name again, and I swear to God, I heard her answer, but the voice wasn't hers anymore. I don't know what part of me thought going down those stairs was a good idea. Maybe I thought I could save her. Maybe I didn't want to be alone in that house another minute. But the second my foot hit the basement floor, the temperature dropped. My breath fogged up in front of me. There was a smell, not rot, not mold. It was sweet, too sweet, like spoiled meat soaked in perfume. The only light came from the crack beneath the basement door, a dull reddish glow. I took a step forward, then another. The door creaked open by itself. Inside was wrong. The room was bigger than it should have been, way bigger. Like it stretched down, deeper than the foundation. The air was thick, almost liquid. The walls were covered in scribbles, scratched into the stone with something sharp. Words in a language I didn't know, but still understood. She is watching. He opened it. We are not alone. And in the middle of the room, crouched over, something was Claire. At least I thought it was her. Her back was arched in a way no human spine should bend. Her fingers had been worn down to raw bone, still scratching symbols into the floor. Her hair clung to her face like seaweed, soaked in sweat and blood. She turned slowly and smiled. But it wasn't her smile. It stretched. Too far, too wide, revealing rows of tiny needle-like teeth. Her eyes were all pupil, black and endless. Too late, she whispered, her voice like glass grinding against metal. She lunged at me faster than I thought possible. I ran, up the stairs, slamming the door behind me. I braced it with everything I could find, chairs, furniture, my own shaking body. Silence, then a whisper through the crack. Let me finish. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the hallway, watching the basement door, shotgun in my lap, tears in my eyes. At 3:12 a.m. she started laughing. Not Claire. Not anymore. Something else. Something older. Hungrier. The laughter echoed from the vents, from the pipes, from inside the goddamn walls. The next morning, the door was gone. Not just closed. Gone. Drywall replaced it. Seamless, like it had never existed. Claire was gone too. No trace, no prints, no hair, no blood. The police thought I killed her. Still do. But that's not the worst part. 2 nights ago, I moved into a cheap motel. Just needed to get away. Last night, I heard a knock on the wall behind the bed. 3 knocks. I froze. Then 3 more. Mimicking mine. I tore the painting off. The wall. Behind it was a door, a small wooden door, with a note carved into it from the inside. She's still scratching. It started with a scream. Not from me. Not yet. It came from my neighbor's house, across the street, just past midnight. Sharp, panicked, then abruptly cut off, like someone had pressed a mute button on a horror movie. I sat frozen in my recliner, TV flickering blue light across my living room, an empty beer bottle dangling from my fingers. My neighborhood in suburban Michigan wasn't the kind of place where people screamed like that. I looked out the window. Mr. Porter's lights were still on, his living room bathed in a weird, flickering glow. No shadows moved behind the curtains. No sign of life at all. I should have called the cops, I know that. Instead, I turned off my TV and went to bed. Cowardice has a way of disguising itself as logic. I figured maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe it was a late-night movie. Maybe I was just tired. The next morning, his house was quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds avoided his yard. Then came the yard sale. 3 days later, like nothing had happened. I came home from work and found a bunch. Folding tables lined up in Porter's driveway full of old junk. Books, clocks, framed photos, porcelain dolls with cracked faces and dead eyes. Thing is, I knew Mr. Porter didn't have any family. No kids, no siblings, no wife. So who set it up? There was no one tending the tables. Just a handwritten sign. Take what you need. No price. No explanation. Everyone in the neighborhood started picking. Through the stuff like vultures. I watched Mrs. Haynes walk away with a dusty wedding dress. The Collins kid took a weird lamp shaped like a coiled snake. I waited until sunset, then walked over, pretending not to feel the knot in my stomach. There was something wrong with the air around the tables. It felt heavy, charged, like standing too close to a storm. I wasn't planning to take anything. But then I saw the mirror, small, square, with a carved wooden frame that looked burned along the edges. It was sitting on the ground, leaned against the wheel of a rusted tricycle. I picked it up, and my reflection didn't move. I blinked. It blinked a second too late. I laughed it off, told myself I was tired, maybe drunk. But I took it anyway. I wish I could say I left it at that. I wish I could say I smashed it or threw it in the trash or set it on fire and never looked back. But that night when I got home and hung it on the wall in the hallway, I heard it whisper my name, just once, almost gentle, like it was inviting me. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw things, not dreams, but fragments. A child sobbing in a dark room, fingers tapping against glass, eyes behind the mirror, watching me, waiting. I covered the mirror with a sheet. The next morning, the sheet was gone, but the mirror was still there. Only now my reflection was smiling. I wasn't. I ripped the mirror off the wall and shoved it into the closet, burying it beneath a pile of towels and jackets. I didn't care if it was a stupid overreaction. I felt it watching me. But the reflection, it didn't stay in the mirror. It followed me. In the bathroom, my face lingered too long after I moved. In windows in the dark screen of my turned-off TV, I'd catch glimpses of myself standing still while I walked past. And always, that same grin. Wide. Wrong. Like my reflection. Knew something I didn't. I stopped leaving the house. I didn't eat. I barely slept. Shadows began to stretch too far, whisper too loud. I heard scratching from the closet, even when I tried to drown it out with music. Then one night, I woke up to the sound of breathing. Not mine. It was slow, raspy, wet, coming from the hallway just outside my bedroom. My heart thundered in my chest as I reached for the bat under my bed. I crept toward the door, each step feeling like walking through mud. The hallway was empty, except for the mirror. It was back on the wall. Only now it was bigger, taller. The burned frame looked fresher, the edges still smoldering faintly. And the glass? It didn't reflect anything anymore. It just showed darkness until I stepped in front of it and saw myself smiling again. Except this time my reflection blinked first. It moved toward me, pressed its hands against the inside of the glass, and then stepped out. I stumbled back, dropped the bat. My own face stared back at me with wide, gleaming eyes. It moved like me, but too fluid, like something trying to imitate human motion. It tilted its head and whispered, "You let me in." I ran. Out the door, down the street, barefoot, in the freezing night. I didn't stop until I reached Mrs. Haynes's porch. I banged on the door, screaming, sobbing. She opened the door just enough to look at me. Her face was pale. Her eyes, empty. Behind her, I saw the wedding dress she took from the yard sale, hanging in the hallway. But it was wet, soaked in something thick and dark that dripped slowly onto the floor. I backed away. Every house I ran to. Same thing. The Collins boy had that snake lamp in his window. I saw shadows moving behind him, long and twitching, not matching his movements. I saw a man kneeling in his living room, whispering to a dusty photograph. I saw a little girl humming to a porcelain doll whose eyes bled black down its cheeks. The collector had taken them all, and I'd let it into me. Now I'm back home. I've boarded up every mirror, every reflective surface. I cover the TV, the windows, even the kitchen faucet. I haven't looked at myself in days, but I still feel it, behind my eyes, in my bones. Sometimes I'll catch myself smiling for no reason, and when I do, I swear, I feel his face stretching my skin from the inside out. I don't know how much longer I can fight it. If you ever see a yard sale with no one there, don't take anything. Don't even look, because he's always watching, waiting, and he only needs one thing to get in, a reflection. If you made it this far, you're braver than most. If these stories chilled you even a little, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps me bring you more horror, more darkness, and more truth. Share this video with someone who thinks they're not afraid of the dark. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Join us. There's always another story waiting, and right now, the one playing on your screen might just be the scariest of them all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.